Thank you, Sandhya. Uh, so let me at the outset thank all of the participants. And the purpose of this presentation, in my view, is to demystify the basics of financial management for apartment associations. And beyond that, I will leave it to you all to ask questions. And I will not be getting into any deep technical matters on my own, but I'm open to questions and I can respond to most of the questions. Yeah. So first is, I just want to tell the entire community that managing apartment finances is not a great challenge if we understand what it is, and it's broadly similar to what we do at our homes, what our spouses do at home. It is only thing is, instead of managing the finances for one house or an apartment, we are managing it for a cluster of maybe 50 apartments, 100, 400 or 1500 apartments. So the volume brings some complexities, but in essence the principles are the same. If we understand this point, the management is very easy. Second is, there is a prevalent notion that apartment finance associate RWA finances management requires finance professionals. At the leadership level, no, it does not require. It requires a person with common sense to do it. There are some technical aspects of financial management for which you can seek outside help, like accounting, taxation, legal, etc. Otherwise, it is as simple as any other job, so long as we have clarity of thought and apply our common sense to the issue on hand. These are the broad the agenda points in which I'll be discussing. Feel free to ask me if you want to digress outside of this, but within the overall apartment financial management. First is the roles and responsibilities. Second is, what's the role of finance in RWA operations, whether it should be a passive role or an active role. Then the third is, what are the best practices? This is based on what I've observed with various apartment associations. Then we can have the questions and answers. However, if there are some questions relevant to the slide in which I'm speaking on, the moment I finish with the slide, you can raise those questions rather than waiting till the end, because sometimes people may tend to forget their questions. I'll move to the next slide. So what are the roles and responsibilities in RWA finance? This is a simplified version. So sophistications are removed of it so that people can easily understand. In the logical order, it is you first, the finance head has to estimate, the treasurer has to estimate the expenditure for the association for the entire year, both operating expenditure and major non-operating expenditure like painting, major civil repairs, then replacement of assets or acquisition of new assets. So this estimation of expenditure is actually the most important starting point. If this is properly done, then managing it during the year is much easier. Next comes the collection from owners. Collection from owners means we estimate what is the total money required for the association to be spent in a particular financial year. Then if we have money in the bank and we have put it into fixed deposits, see what is the interest we'll get deducted, and the balance money we apportion to all the apartments either equally or based on square foot, and then collect the money. It is as simple as that. So collection management is actually relatively easier than the estimation of the expenditure. Then the third is ensuring statutory compliances. The compliance areas are very few. If you take GST and income tax out, there are not many, but it is very easy to get into traps. So here, by way of compliance, what I mean is that you have to ensure that you don't violate any of the laws. That is more important than compliance. Then the last one is the managing the RWA accounting. It's a very minor topic, but these days we do have at least 8 to 9 ERPs available. Therefore, people must switch over to an ERP than accounting. That's what I'll be speaking about. Okay, here we go. First, for the collection from customer owners, and for the first principle is the collections legally are due from the owners, even though they may have tenants. So that must be kept in mind, because I do see quite a few of apartments having disputes, saying that the owners disown, saying that I put a tenant, my rent agreement is rent plus maintenance charges, so they have to pay. It is nice to say that, but the association management must be clear that the responsibility lies with the owner, and they cannot be running after tenants to pay. This is very important. Second point is, the question is, how do I collect monies? How often do I ask the owners to pay? There are quite a few apartments who do raise invoices on a monthly basis, and some of them don't even raise invoices. They send an email and collect money. In these days of GST, I would strongly recommend that the invoices or debit notes are raised for the money to be collected at the desired frequencies. Now, coming to the frequency, we all know that we have a high fixed commitments in the apartment management. You have to monthly pay electricity bills for common areas. You have to pay water bill. You have to pay for the housekeeping. You have to pay for security, and you have to pay for solid waste management if you are a large apartment having an STP. And therefore, to meet all these commitments, you should receive the money in advance. So how do you receive the money in advance? You raise the invoices once in a quarter, or some apartments practice once in half year also. Please raise the invoices depending on how your owners accept, but it should not be less than once a quarter. Monthly invoicing is strictly a no-no, because it is the most inefficient way of managing apartment finances. I do understand that some of the owners will insist that they will pay only monthly, but over a period of time, people will agree for a quarterly payment with some amount of persuasion. So please ensure that you are collecting monies in advance. Good balance in the bank always helps the association management to plan their activities well in advance. And if you are able to pay well in advance, then you can negotiate much better with your vendors and expect better terms and better quality of products, better type of services. Then comes the capital expenditure. In addition to the monthly operating expenditure for which you collect maintenance charges, you also have huge one-time expenditure like painting, major breakdowns of electrical installations or lifts, or major civil repairs like need to relay out a road post-monsoon. For these purposes, if the association is in a comfortable position with surplus funds, they can use that. Otherwise, in the beginning of the year, please plan for it and collect in an equated manner monthly sinking fund, or you can estimate and collect in one time the money from the owners. Now, there is a dispute always in tenanted apartments whether a sinking fund has to be paid by the tenant or the owner. I would strongly advise the associations to keep away from such disputes and insist that the money is to be paid, as the primary liability for this is only from the owner. That's the other point. The next point, which is of more practical importance to all the owners, to the apartment associations, how do you collect money from the defaulting owners? First is you must have a provision in your bylaws, and if you are an association which is formed under Karnataka Apartment Ownership Act, then the bylaws will normally have a provision for declaring a owner as a defaulting owner. Defaulting owner is a owner who is not paying his dues, and there are procedures mentioned about their declaration. They should not have paid for 90 days, notice must be given, all those things. I'm not repeating that here. So you declare the person as a defaulting owner, then give notices that you will stop services, and then you stop all the services which the association is providing to the owners, to the defaulting owner, because they are not paying. And then normally in a span of 2 to 3 months, the owners come around and they will pay it. Now the problem arises when the owner is not living and keeps the apartment vacant. In such a case, there is nothing much which the association can do other than preventing the owner from moving in without the dues being clear. That's one. And the next point is the association management team, at least one person, must visit the nearest registrar office and tell the registrar that they should not register any transfer of apartment without a no objection certificate from the apartment association office. Normally, this is a standard practice which is followed by most of the registrar offices, but some of them could be exceptions. So in our own interest, we'll have to visit the apartment as the registrar office and inform them that you are located in within the jurisdiction of the registrar office, and ask them to insist on an NOC. These days in Bangalore, you can register sale across all register office. Therefore, to that extent, this provision could get diluted, but still it will be good to visit the nearest registrar office and inform them. Then the other question which arises frequently is the association right in stopping supply of essential services? I'm not meaning a legal definition of essential services, but what is required for living in a household, which is stoppage of supply of water, supply of DG electricity, diesel generator electricity, because BESCOM bill is always a direct one, whereas for DG the owner pays or the occupant pays only through the maintenance charges. Then housekeeping services. All these must be stopped, and it is possible that the resident will go and file a criminal complaint with the police that the association is stopping essential services and he is deprived of his right to live. Therefore, before such stoppage, at least 2 notices must have been given indicating that non-payment will involve stoppage of services, and please do it. There are people who quote some Supreme Court cases and say that you cannot stop water supply. I have done personally in my association stoppage of water supply, and I have had calls from BWSSB chairman's office asking me how I can stop supply of water. I have given the answer. I told the BWSSB chairman's office that if you say that you will continue to supply water even if we don't pay the BWSSB bills, we will also do the same thing. And then they said, no, that's not possible. But and the police also came and asked me. I showed them our bylaws and our notices. Then they simply went back. So this can be easily implemented. Now, there are some associations which have gone to the extreme, in the sense that they do not allow the defaulting owner's vehicle, if it is there inside the apartment, to even come out of the apartment, or if it has gone out, they are not allowing the vehicle entry inside till the dues are paid. But that is illegal, because by ownership, the owner has the right to use common assets. In this case, the roads are the common assets within the apartment. So one cannot prevent a car from being driven inside, but people do that. But the most important thing is that we have to have the treasury head has to have a tight grip on the receivable collection, and it is squarely the responsibility, and it's a fairly easy work so long as the follow-ups are fairly regular and timely. If your invoice says that dues must be paid within 20 days from the date of the invoice, from the 15th day itself, you must ask your estate manager to follow up and then escalate pending cases to the treasury by 20 days. Okay, any questions?
When water can be stopped, why not power?
Power, you don't pay for it, because power is the direct bill from BESCOM.
Okay, well, BWSSB is also direct bill, you know.
No, BWSSB comes for the entire apartment complex. You will only at best put a sub-meter. The liability to pay BWSSB.
That means we can stop a common area lighting for him.
Yes. Common area you can do. That's why I said you can stop housekeeping services. That means you don't lift garbage from them.
Yeah, car parking area, that is common area in front of his house, common area. We can stop that connection.
I don't know. Common area is not meant for car parking, no? Common area you cannot park cars. That is illegal.
Common area
Common
means
area.
for his allotment area, but we are paying, because normally it is a basement area.
Umesh,
See, where
Sundar, 1 minute. See, the common area is, it cannot be stopped because it belongs to so many people. You can only
No.
stop there. Even that
You
is
see, when we have put a light for every car parking area, we can remove our bulb from there.
yeah, that you can do. But
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Bescom is a direct contract between the owner and Bescom. You can't interfere with that. You
Yeah,
can
that
stop
I agree with.
that backup. You can stop. Go ahead, Sundar.
Yeah.
correct,
Okay.
correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Right.
I
And one word is I would strongly advise associations to follow this route and not get into filing legal complaints against the defaulting owner outside of the association, because this is an internal matter. The moment you go outside, you lose control. So please do not think of giving a lawyer notice, then going to court and all for this recovery of monies. This best way is to stop services. Then someday or other they have to either sell the apartment or they will have to use it. Then they will come around and pay.
But you can't allow this to accumulate or pile on, right? Because in many apartments, you also have the builders or developers who have their share of apartments. So if that runs into 5, 10, 15% of your total apartments, and if they together stop paying the maintenance for whatever privileges they think they are enjoying, then there is no option but to go to the legal course. I think the first
Yes,
suggestion.
yeah, that's correct.
Because before
what
implementing,
I'm saying is for a whole apartment. Yeah, what
Sorry?
I'm saying is, sir, let me clarify. What I'm saying is, my suggestions are for apartments which are sold, which are occupied or in the past occupied and will be occupied. But apartments which are yet to be sold, which are in the hands of the owner or the builder, if the amounts are not recovered, paid within a reasonable period of time, because your stoppage of service will have no effect on the builder or the owner, then best is to go legal and file a suit for recovery.
No, and
But for that,
what
you
I'm saying is,
have
it is not. I'm not saying for not occupied. I'm talking about even post. It is sort of an investment for them, or because they are not able to sell, they have these chunks of apartments, which they are tenanting it out. So they are apartments, number one. Number two, they have tenanted it out, and number three, they refuse to pay certain charges, which could be for that capital expense kind of a nature, or could be for some of the others. So they just feel they just do not pay up. So even if it is occupied, and some of these services we disrupt as per our bylaws, there may not be any choice but to go to the courts when that amounts are huge in number, is large in number.
Correct. If the amounts are huge and your stoppage of services are not effective, then yes. But normally, if it is occupied, it will become effective at some stage because people can't be without water. Anyway, we'll see.
Correct. But in respect of penthouse, normally every builder has got a penthouse which is sold to somebody, and that person takes common area, electricity, water, everything. Where we can, without issuing notice, we can disconnect.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, done. Thank you, sir.
Mr.
Okay.
Mr. VJ Chebbi, kindly switch off your video, sir. Kindly.
I'll go to the next slide.
Mr.
Estimating the operating.
One question. Hello. One question here, Mr. Sundar.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, can I ask? Can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So, is there any concept of cross? Yeah, is there any concept of cross default? By which I mean, if the landowner has multiple apartments, some of them are tenanted or sold, but some of them are vacant, not yet taken into possession, etc. He pays for only maintenance only for those which is tenanted or occupied and doesn't pay for the rest. Is there any concept that we can stop services for all of his apartments if he doesn't pay part of it? That's what I meant by cross default.
No, if apartment has paid for it, just because he is owning another apartment where he has not paid, you cannot stop service for this apartment, because each individual apartment is considered as one unit. You have one vote for that, and therefore you cannot jump from one apartment to another unless it's a joint apartment. Some people join two apartments and live in a single dwelling unit, and then they say, why I should pay for two maintenance charges. Okay, but otherwise, to answer your question, you cannot stop.
Mr. Sundaram, this is Manish here. One question. Do you have an experience of differentiated rates of maintenance? Practical?
See, some apartments in Bangalore do that. I do know that, but we in our apartment association, we discussed this right in the beginning, and we believe that the owner of a building has a right to live either himself or his tenant, and the apartment association has no business to differentiate. And but overall, one more point is that we do not allow the apartment to be used for any purpose other than residential purposes. So to that extent, if it is residential, it's not fair to charge extra money just because the owner is getting rent.
Sundar, can I add something here? Sundar, can I add?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, in our apartment, we are charging more. It has been passed as a resolution in the AGM, which becomes a part of bylaw. It depends on your bylaw. Whether you collect it on the square foot or flat wise, it is again bylaw. A tenant or owner, the reason why we collect more is the house is built for the owner to live. If he has rented, he is making money. So he has to pay more to the apartment association. That is the reason we have passed a rule in the AGM and we are collecting more. Thank you.
We also used to do that.
Yeah, I think these are all individual viewpoints which individual apartments can together, as he said, pass a resolution and do. It's not illegal. It's only individual owners have to decide.
That is
not be possible. What I heard somebody telling, passing a resolution in AGM, you cannot change the bylaws. Changing a bylaw requires some signature of all the owners, and that too you have to go to the registrar. I don't think in AGM resolution you can change the bylaws.
no. Yeah, it is a change of bylaw with these.
1 minute.
Sorry, this
the bylaws can be changed only in a special general meeting. So these points are taken.
Let me.
Yes, sir.
Let me just. I think digressing too much. See, the apartment bylaws provide the power for charging maintenance charges and certain others, and it's the AGM which decides how much to be charged. Charging extra for tenant is a way of charging maintenance charges. The AGM can decide. But if you're changing the bylaw, the bylaws will prescribe a 2/3 majority or 75%, and that has to be done. But those are all standard processes. If those processes are not followed, then the bylaw amendment is not effective. It's not binding. With that, we'll leave it. People are doing it.
I have one question regarding this. I am Indira. And I know some of the apartments, those who rented out their flats, there is a provision to collect some non-occupancy charges. Whether we can do that?
If they all owners agree, please do it. See, these are all. There is nothing in the law about this. If the apartment has 150 owners, all of them decide to collect money by whatever name they call, they can do that.
Okay.
There's nothing illegal about it, so long as it is agreed by the majority of the members in the.
That is also to be passed in the general body.
Yes, absolutely. All this will have to be approved by the general body. But if their bylaw says that it has to be approved by a higher majority, then that majority will apply.
Then it can be. Okay. Thank you very much.
Is it possible to take the question at the end? because I'm really
Okay.
eager to see your slides.
I also was thinking, correct. I think we'll run short of time. I will finish my presentation, then we can go to questions.
What I suggest, Sundar, let them ask the questions in the chat. You finish the presentation, then read the chat
Sure.
and then.
Good suggestion. Okay. Now we will move on to the next slide. So this, in my view, is the most important job of the managing the finances. You have to estimate your expenditure. Now, having said that, by my experience, I've seen that broadly there are only 10 heads, maximum 10 heads, which account for 90 to 95% of the expenditure of the association. If the treasury head takes care of this and gets the necessary expertise either himself or through the subcommittees formed for each one of this, then the expenditure would have been better managed, better estimated, and the money spent will be sort of rightful. So the main headings I've listed out: housekeeping, and then housekeeping includes security. Then waste management. These days, waste management is becoming a big topic by itself. Whether you do in situ composting or you send out your wet waste, and if you are legally obliged to have a sewerage treatment plant, then managing the STP. All this will require a certain level of understanding and expertise, which need not necessarily be acquired by the finance person. He has to acquire enough expertise to understand the proposal, but beyond that, leave it to a committee of experts or near experts who are living there to suggest the right way of spending money, either by way of the vendor selection or by way of the sourcing of chemicals, the sourcing of people, service providers, and all. Then the other one is they must, on the maintenance of electrical, firefighting, DG, and lift. This is something which they find easy to understand. The finance man must ensure, the treasurer must ensure that a program of maintenance is made out for all this, and once they move out of warranty, and proper monies are allocated for the maintenance purposes, because this is where the residents depend on the management committee to efficiently function, and we cannot, as far as possible, claim that the particular machinery has failed. It's our job to ensure that by adequate preventive mechanism maintenance, the failures do not happen. Then the next one is the civil repairs. Civil repairs are by nature unpredictable, and therefore you must have a system of review by which civil repairs are identified. And I would here suggest that please do not engage experts to come and inspect your place to identify civil repairs, because that's a very expensive exercise. Some apartments do that, and I'm sure in our owner community there will be some civil engineer background person who can at least identify. Then after that you can call an expert from outside to inspect. Then the important point is next is insurance. Insurance is the least understood by all people. I'll tell you the ideal way to insure is, there are two types of insurances. What is inside the apartment is owned by individual owners. The association need not insure that. The association has to insure the entire building, all common assets, including light fixtures, TV cameras, then your DG sets, switching panels, bore wells, everything has to be insured. Now the question is, insurance by nature is a expenditure for mitigating risk. It's not mitigating losses. First is you are anticipating a risk and you are paying this premium. Therefore, we should not try to cut corners by trying to be efficient. When I say trying to be efficient, there are people who will not take cover for say floods. The chances of floods happening are once in 10 years, 15 years is possible, because half the apartments are built around lake bunds. So we should ensure that we are not removing the clause which provides for flood damage. The second is whether you want to have a terrorism cover or not. I would suggest that people discuss these at the management committee level, whether it is required to have this clause or remove, and then decide on the premium, and not cut out all these clauses just because one wants to save on the insurance premium cost. That is one. Second is, what do you insure? You can insure a particular value and the insurance company will pay on damages for the value less depreciation. But if you say that you want to pay premium on the replacement cost, they will pay you the replacement cost of the asset which is damaged. Like for example, if a DG set is damaged, if you have just insured, they will say currently the DG set value of a similar, say 180 kVA will be around 15 lakhs. On the 15 lakhs, they will say your current DG set is 10 years old, and then they will remove depreciation for 10 years and give you some 5-10%. But if you have done a reinsurance, you have done an insurance based on replacement value, they will give you that 15 lakhs provided your overall policy value is covering the 15 lakhs. I would strongly recommend that you do in the replacement value, because here again the owners want to continue to live in the apartment and the association has to ensure in a way that you can quickly come back to normal life and not go around with a begging bowl to all owners saying that there is an insurance damage and the insurance is paying only 10%. So please provide us with the balance money for replacement of assets. And the replacement insurance mitigates the risk and makes it spread over a period of time. But one can always question saying that the premiums are a little higher. And the other one is, please choose a software for managing your apartment affairs, which could be these days, in the last Bamboos event, I saw at least 8 vendors offering ERP packages covering a wide range of apartment activities, from resource management to accounting, receivables, invoicing, then gate management, communication to all the owners, and then booking of assets. That means your meeting halls and community halls. So please use that. Use of such a package ensures that the activities are manageable by people who do not necessarily have a strong IT experience, number one. And number two, it provides for continuity across management committees, and the individual efficiencies need not reflect on the operations. Then the last item of this one is, you should budget for some amount of social activities and networking, for which could be a dinner on the AGM day, which could be some melas, some sports activities. These are the things. Once you do this, there are nothing much to be done in the operating expenditure. Then the other thing is, please realize that compared to what it was a few years back, today we have a strong body like Bangalore Apartment Federation, where quite a few of the well-managed apartments are members, and their expertise is available to the treasury head to tap and ask questions and get answers. So don't feel shy of asking questions. If you have a doubt, if you think you are not doing the best the possible thing, please reach out. Do not try to invent the wheel yourself. No need to reinvent. There are enough people who have done it. They will be happy to share their knowledge with you. I have found no apartment person refusing to share their knowledge if I seek out. I'm sure the same thing will happen to all of you. Then the other one is very most important. Please work out with all your expenditure what is the per square foot expenditure you are incurring on a per month basis, and compare it with other apartments of similar nature. Like if your apartment is a 7-storied building, you should not reach out to an apartment which is high rise with 20 floors and compare the expenditure, because high rise brings its own unique costs. But try to similar. If you are 150 apartments, look for another somewhere between 100 to 200 apartments and benchmark the cost. Share the details. Don't feel shy. There is nothing confidential about it. That will bring a lot of best practices followed by each apartment to the others. I found this very useful, and I have found things, some very innovative solutions which are never thought of by me, which are being practiced by others. Okay, I'll go to the next slide. Now, this is the other generally neglected area. and very important, we should do a long-term perspective planning for the apartment complex. When I say long-term perspective planning, it should be at least a 10-year plan where a set of people who are able to visualize such things, experts who are experts in electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, within the apartment ownership community, they should sit and visualize what can happen in the next 10 years to the apartment, what should get replaced, what other features you can add. For example, your building would have been built quite some time back. You may want to change the lift motors. You may want to introduce some automated processes. And then you may want to paint the apartment at some point of time, relay your gardens. A lot of these activities go to add value to the apartment in the long term. In the short term, we always will be running for either expenditure or for time, and we may not take it up. Plan for it, prepare a long-term plan, identify what is the total amount of money which will be required for these long-term requirements, and then spread it over the period of 36, 48, 50, 60 months, and then collect it as sinking fund and keep that money separately without spending for operating expenditure. This will ensure that when you want to do some of these things, money is readily available and you do not keep running to the owners frequently for meeting some of these additional expenditure. Some apartments, of course, I've seen they collect based on the need one-time amount, but I would suggest that you spread it out to the extent possible. Next. Now we come to the most dreaded area, compliance. Now, first and foremost, compliance is not challenging, but what is challenging is unknown or unnoticed compliance issues. So therefore, a treasury head will have to sit with maybe his auditor, maybe with certain other apartment treasurers who are associations who are considered to be better managed, and list out all compliance issues. I have listed out quite a few here. Now, in this entire list, I'm not going to read that list, but the important ones in terms of, I won't say complexity, but perceived complexity is GST, then income tax deduction on payments to vendors. These two are best left to a chartered accountant who does work for you, because they are easier. They don't charge you too much of money, maybe 1,000 to 1,500 rupees per month they will charge, and you can get this managed by them, and they will tell you what are the bills for which you have to deduct taxes, and then how to manage GST and what information they will require. And most of these informations are also available in the ERPs, so it is easy to manage. Then the quarterly returns can be filed by the chartered accountants. You have to only know what are the rates of taxes to be deducted, so that you apply that. And similarly, GST is fairly simple. Most of the apartment association packages, including Tally, have enabled the GST feature, so it is fairly easy. You have to only understand. And since we had a session on GST, I think 1.5 months back, I will not get into GST issues. There are specific questions, I can take it up at the end. Now, profession tax is compulsory for the apartment association, as any entity registered under Shops and Establishment Act will have to be registered under Professional Tax Act. So therefore, you have to do this, and there is no escape. If you have one employee, for that one employee, you have to deduct 200 rupees tax and pay for it. Annual audit is compulsory under the Karnataka Apartment Ownership Act or under the Society Registration Act. Therefore, you'll have to get your accounts audited. Then next is the income tax return and filing. That also has to be filed. There is no, take the help of your auditor to do this work. Then comes a whole list of registrations which are to to be renewed at some point of time. So the treasurer must go through all the approvals taken initially by the builder. The builder would have handed over those approvals as part of the approval, the handover of documents. Read every approval, see if it is a time-bound approval or it's a permanent approval, and if it is time-bound, note down the date for renewal and act on it. Similarly, you will have to have various for sewerage treatment plant. There are some licenses to be obtained or renewed. Similarly, for lifts, you have to, after 10 years, you have to renew the license. So you have to get a list of such assets and look at the approval conditions and note down for the date of renewal. And this is a fairly simple job, and most of the apartment associations, somebody or other would have made a list, and so you can ask around and then get a list of what are the renewals to be done and compile a list. Now I come to the ownership, the labor laws. As a person who has who's been managing apartment association affairs in various capacities, I would strongly recommend that no apartment association should hire people because they are cheaper to hire directly than through an agency. Number one. The labor laws are too complex and it's a waste of time for the apartment management people because they are all doing part-time jobs and they cannot be held responsible. So best is to hire through an agency and have because the manager has to be on your side, so you will want to do that. Some apartment associations also put the manager on the role of the employment agency. So I would say housekeeping, and similarly, if there are cases where I've seen people are engaging some of the housekeeping maids because they have a dispute with the agency and keep them directly employed. We should avoid such practices. And the other question is, legally, even if you have an agency, the association is responsible as a primary employer, but you can manage that liability by enough indemnity clauses with your recruitment, the agency whom you have employed, saying that they will indemnify you of all the costs and all the liabilities. And we should go for some reputed agency so that they don't run away when there is a trouble. The one-off single man shows we should try to avoid as much as possible. Then the last one is the ownership documents. Initially, it's not a big. The moment you take over the ownership documents, please make a complete catalog of it, scan it, put it into a CD or a common website, and hire a locker from a bank and store the documents. That's very important. I think somebody has to mute. Yes, thank you. So this ownership documents is a very important responsibility, but some people have neglected it and they will be running around when resale happens. On the other side, purchaser's lawyer asks for some documents, they won't know where it is. So I suggest that it be done. But these days what happens is most of the leading builders provide documentation in a CD, and we have to just maintain it. Beyond that, it's fairly simple and easy if you take care of the storage of the documents. Next point, how do you manage the accounting? As I said earlier, please use a good ERP. Do not try to save on that money. The charges are actually very low per apartment per month. We, in our Shobha Opal, we use apartment data. We have used it almost, we are the second or third customer for them, and they started this thing. And similarly, Common Floor is another big package, widely used. Then you have Apna apartment or something. Quite a few are there with the latest features. Please evaluate and use one of them, but do not worry about the effort of implementation. We will have to implement. There could be owners who are saying we are not computer savvy. If required, ask them to take the assistance of the office manager. In our apartment, there are quite a few, at least 5 or 6 elderly people who do not know how to operate or who do not want to operate the computer, or a smartphone. So in those cases alone, we print all the notices and hand over personally to them. The apartment manager does that. But otherwise, everyone has to have the package accessible either through phone or laptop and respond. But having said that, I will also tell you that at one point of time, we found that only around 30 to 40% of the owners log on to the ERP. The balance somehow manage without logging on to the site, but we'll have to encourage them to do it. And similarly, all the communication must go through this ERP's communication, and preferably move out from the Yahoo groups and the Gmail groups. It will help to better manage communications. The other part of communication, which is an wide open question, and I don't have an answer, is should we form WhatsApp groups for owners? Answer is today everyone uses WhatsApp, and that's the most effective communication. We can just send a message and raise a complaint and say I've raised a complaint. And in large apartments, it's difficult to monitor hundreds of owners. But then this is also the other feature which one can look at. Then the other one is for managing the ERP and accounting. Please take a specialized resource. It need not be full-time. There are enough part-time resources available who do accounting for as low as 5,000 rupees per month. But please engage them and get your work done. Do not depend on part-time in-house owners to do it for a low fee. Some apartments I've seen people, some owners getting paid some 2,000 to 3,000 rupees, and spouse who is at home doing the accounting. These are all nice to have features for talking, but it's not a professional approach. Get somebody whose job depends on doing the accounting and make him do it, pay a small fees and get it done. Because receivables, expenditure, and of course invoicing, all this you have appointed an accountant, part-time or full-time. Make it a practice to get monthly reports on various financial matters like monthly expenditure, collection reports, receivables, and then a compliance chart has to be managed by him for the various taxes and returns to be filed. Make it a point that he has to circulate monthly a set of reports which will be seen by the treasurer, the secretary, vice president, and the president of the association, so that tomorrow no one can say I never received information. That is one common complaint which I've seen. The president will say, oh, my treasurer never gives me reports. We should avoid such things, bring transparency so that we can discuss issues but not discuss non-availability of information. Then the last point I've said again, please have a CA firm manage the compliances relating to taxes. Negotiate hard, look for shop for the lowest cost vendor, because the job is the same between a high cost and a low cost. Nobody can add value to the tax complaints. All are same. And the tax laws for income tax also is very clear that the money which is received from maintenance is on the basis of mutuality principle is not subject to tax. But if you invest the money in a bank fixed deposit and earn interest, then that interest is taxable. So there is no great tax savings possible, a very clear rule. And we should employ a chartered accountant to do the calculation. Similarly, for filing GST returns, TDS returns, profession tax, make one person do everything. Do not go for each one separately, because then you pay much more. Okay. And last, I want to tell you, management of taxes are not complicated. It is very easy, but you have to do it with periodically and thoroughly. That's all. Now, what is the role of finances in the RWA operations? Now, before I start off on these points, let me clarify one point. I have seen the finance heads, treasury heads, treasurers, they think that their job is to write a check when it is approved by MC or a president or a vice president. I would strongly agree, like to disagree. they have to do a review job to ensure that for the money part in the approval process and set down a process of approval for expenditure to be incurred right at the planning stage. And this can be repetitive expenditure is once in a year. They have to set standards for what is it that has to be delivered for the purchase or the service. For example, if it is security, if you are participating in the finalization of a contract with the security agency, we must very clearly, the finance head must be able to say how many number of guards, what are their duty hours, what are they expected to deliver, how often they have to go around to the beat. I mean, they can take help from others to understand this, but ultimately it is their job to list out clearly the deliverables from the security agency and periodically inspect whether it is happening. I'm sure there is a security subcommittee will do it, but the finance head also, treasury head also has to do it. Then similarly, if it is for purchase, the finance man has and then try to see if it happens. That's very important. Similarly, again, I'm stressing that the finance person before cannot just sign a check saying that the president has signed or the MC member has signed. I do not want, because here this is an informal organization, so people are very cautious and courteous not to tread on others' toes by asking questions. But that is not a right approach, and sometimes by not asking questions, we are doing injustice to the community of owners who have appointed and elected us. We have to ask the basic questions because you are playing a custodial role for the money which is owned by all the owners of the apartment. So we'll have to ask those questions. I mean, here there is no friendship. And if people are unhappy about questions, I mean, we can be nicely asking questions, but beyond that, we cannot be nicer than that. Then similarly, if it is a capital expenditure proposal, do not be in a hurry to finalize. Thoroughly examine the proposal, ensure that you are getting the best possible price for the expenditure, you are getting the best possible set of features for what is required to be achieved by buying that asset, and also look at evaluation of the operating cost for the next 5 years. You have to evaluate the cost of ownership for the next 5 years when you are buying an asset, and not the immediate price. Like for example, if you're buying a lift or a DG set, lift is a better example. Somebody will have a 20% AMC per year after that. Whereas another vendor will have a higher price but a lower AMC. We should take the AMC plus the cost of the lift and compare over the next cost for 5 years and then compare it. This is what it is. And the last is asking questions is not bureaucracy. Therefore, please do not allow others to tell you that you are being bureaucratic. You are being, if your alertness must help in avoiding or curbing inefficiency in spending. And I've had enough cases. Next, now what are the best practices? This I've listed out based on my experience and what I've heard from others. One is the interest in income. So in these days of decreasing interest rates, there are various ways to maximize interests. One thing is people are under the, some, not all, but some of the apartment associations are under the mistaken notion that they can keep deposits only with banks. No, they can also keep it outside. For example, in Shobha Opal, we have passed a resolution in the AGM which approves the management committee to invest in AAA rated fixed deposit schemes with HDFC. We have specified the name. We cannot go on AAA rated scheme from let us say Tata Finance is offering AAA rated scheme. We cannot invest, nor in Sundaram Finance, but allowed to invest in that in fixed deposits. But we have said there also that it cannot be more than 5 years. So, but we are not allowed to invest in Government of India securities, because in Government of India securities the interest rate volatility is very high and therefore prices keep fluctuating. But we have been approved for investing in interest tax-free bonds. This was at quite some time back when they were attractive, not today. So like that, the Treasury head must look at various options, then discuss and decide. But for the areas which normally are not advisable for apartment associations, or do not invest in fixed deposit schemes which are not AAA rated, and it has to be a complete AAA rated, not a structured AAA rated. That means it cannot be a AAA rating with some conditions. Then the second is
Mr. Sundar, one input here. Sorry.
Banks also.
Sir,
Yeah.
In these
Can we
times,
take the
especially after
questions
the
later,
Yes Bank experience.
Sorry, please keep your questions to the end, please.
Okay, right. So the next is avoid. In this, I was about to come. Avoid. See, this is a very partial point of view from my side. As far as possible, invest only in nationalized banks or very large banks like ICICI Bank or HDFC Bank, because the interest rate, the security is very important. Okay. Next is the rest of the points I have already discussed. You can read them. Leverage. The other point is there are quite a few good builders who keep the initial deposit with themselves and provide you services for a notional rate of interest. If you have a confidence on the builder, please continue that practice, because they will give you much more than what the bank will give. I know, for example, others builders are still providing 12% return on the deposits for some of the other properties, and their maintenance costs are much lower. Whereas in some other good builders, the owners have taken a view, I can't rely on the builder, fought and took the money back, and they're all now getting interest at 4 to 5%. So this is something which one has to examine. I'm not saying do it in all cases, because not all builders are great, but evaluate that. We have time. I think already 5 minutes late.
It's okay. I think people have quite a few questions, so it's okay. If you want
just
to
if it's a registered office without doing business is quite okay, because you can have it. Just he's lending his address. But if it goes beyond lending the address, it is not right. You should not have an office there. If he just has a registered office, just registered, beyond that nothing, fine.
Sir, this is Raghavendra over here. Can we levy a non-participation charge for the member who is not ready to serve as a management committee member for a specific tenure? Is it legal?
Not serving a management committee, you cannot charge money for fees for it, no? It is discriminatory. It is not a question of legality. More than that, it is discriminatory.
So ours is a small apartment with 130 apartments, and everybody had agreed to serve as a management committee member for a period of 1 year. But few of the people have refused to serve this. So how do we make sure that they serve the society?
I'll give you an easy but extreme way. Amend your bylaws to say that every apartment owner who is living in the apartment has to spend 2 years as a management committee member, and if he's not, he becomes a defaulting owner. The moment he becomes the defaulting owner, you have all the powers available under the bylaws. You have to first amend the bylaws for all this and do it.
Otherwise, he can do one thing, sir. Otherwise, he can do one thing. All the management committee members goes to work, they can team up.
In the question box, please answer the questions in the question box.
Yeah.
There are few members who want to participate and serve as a management committee member, whereas few others they are residing outside India and therefore they cannot participate in doing this. So how do we treat both of them differently?
Yeah.
No, the people who are not residing, you should not have them as a MC member because it will be ineffective. But people who are within Bangalore can anyway be inducted. I know quite a few apartment owners living outside in Bangalore participating in management committee activities very actively. I know, in fact, one person was a president also. So, but abroad is a very academic question.
Yeah, sir, I have one question.
Okay, next question. Yeah.
Sir, actually, we earn lot of interest income. The deposits that we have from all the residents, it runs. We earn an interest of around 1.2 crores to 1.3 crores. So, what is the most tax efficient way? Because most of the residents here come under 30% tax bracket. So, what is the most efficient way to handle that? Few years we have credited it back to them, and few years we have. In 1 year we have withheld it because of some issues. So what would be your suggestion, sir?
Are you saying that your interest income will be much more than your monthly expenditure?
No, sir. I am talking about the whole year.
No, whole year. I'm saying normally any method of budgeting, first you take the total expenditure, deduct whatever you will get as interest income. And if still the expenditure is more than the interest income, you collect it as maintenance charges. If the interest income is so much that you don't need to pay for collect, means you don't collect.
Okay.
No, Sundar, I have raised some questions in the question box. Can you please address them? Muralidhar Rao here, in the question box.
Yeah.
One is about BBMP property tax. BBMP property tax, it is levied at double the rate for I have raised that for owners who are renting it out. Now, is it incumbent on the association to, if the BBMP raises the question, who are the people who are renting it out? If they, is it incumbent on us to declare that?
There is a provision, I forgot which act, that you cannot obstruct a government officer from collecting taxes. So if BBMP is asking you the list of tenanted apartments because they have to collect a higher property tax, you have to give that information. If you're not giving, you are obstructing his work, the public servant from doing his work. So you have to give, there is no choice.
So this is Vidya here, Mr. Sundar. I do not agree with that statement. I do not agree with that statement because this is individual property and individual way the owner would have declared his property. So the BBMP has details of all these property tax payers. So they should have their own, like we have a mechanism for default or some such, they should have their own mechanism. And if they need association support or gathering information, it has to be supported with a valid notification, circular, or some such thing. But this is very individual. Association cannot be involved in this kind of, giving the data also, because it is nothing to do with the association.
No, Vidya, this question we in fact verified with a senior lawyer. Other BBMP maintains records or not, whether they are inefficient or they have to collect from the owner, it's all fine. You as a body association registered in Karnataka being present in Karnataka. If the BBMP says for my better tax collection, which is a government job, I want you to give a list of tenants. There are enough rules and case laws. I can tell you from the civil procedure code itself, somewhere it is there. So we were told that you have to give, there is no choice, because we also asked from a question of privacy of information. We were told very clearly, if a government body is asking, you have to give, not a government corporation. BBMP is a body. Whereas if BESCOM comes and asks, not BESCOM, so some other, BESCOM is a separate company. If they come and ask, we need not give. Whereas BBMP, we have to give.
No, actually, it has. What I'm saying is, it has to be supported. It has to be supported by proper request letter and any reference to that particular notification also. So I don't think. For example, we also had officials visiting and saying that these are the list of property tax defaulters. Please put it on your notice board. Now, the minute I put it, I am sure that there will be multiple people here who will raise to go and say that it has been put on the notice board by the association. So there is a defamation case or whatever those things are. So it is not my jurisdiction unless it comes through the BBMP.
This issue can be taken later, I think.
Yeah.
No,
all I'm saying is we need not. We are of entertaining all such requests without a backing reference as to why they are collecting and that they are authorized to collect this information, because a lot of it is individual owner information which the association may not be responsible.
I take your point. I think give me some time later on. I will circulate what is the rule under which you are duty bound to give it. They will not say association has to give. It says prevention of obstruction of government official from performing his work. Cover is a very wide clause. All this will go under that. I will circulate that. Maybe the officer who is coming and asking you may not be aware
it's an
of the
official
section.
request rather than a personal request. But
yes, it should be an official request. That's true.
Sorry?
Can you please touch upon the penalty part of it for non-payment of maintenance or sinking fund by owners, please?
Yes. If the AGM approves, you can collect interest, you can collect penalty. In Shobha Opal, for example, we collect interest for delayed payment beyond the 20 days from the date of the invoice.
Okay. If it's part of our bylaws, it shouldn't be a problem to. Okay.
Yeah, Murli again.
If you get hold of a good insurance advisor, that means somebody who's available, knows, because indemnity insurance, the average insurance broker has no clue of it. So you have to reach out to the good insurance companies or to good insurance advisors and ask for it. It is available. I, in fact, was one of the earliest to ask for it. But when I went through the laws, the indemnity insurance, it does not cover criminal liability. Supposing in your building, if you are painting and scaffolding is put up and somebody operates in a jula without tying himself to the scaffolding, falls and dies, they will first come and arrest the president. In such a, because it has happened in one monthly apartment, I'm just quoting that. Then the insurance policy cannot come to your rescue for two reasons. One is it is insurance policy is limited to civil liabilities, whereas this is criminal. Secondly, they will say that indemnity cannot be for violation of law. The moment it becomes a police case, they will say it's a violation of law. So we found that when we are trying to apply that insurance policy for 8 to 9 situations, risk situations, we found that the insurance policy is of no use. So we just generally didn't bother to take it. But it is available readily. Please take it.
Mr. Sen, or establishment under shops and
No,
establishment.
no need. You are neither an establishment nor you're not a commercial establishment. There is no commerce in that. You are only collecting money from all the people, and then you are sort of providing service to them.
Okay. So,
But if you are in some cases, in some apartments, they also run retail apartments. Then there is a slight difference. Retail activities. Then there is a slight difference.
Okay.
No, you
on the same premise. On the same premise, association RWA doesn't have any employees. Still, I'm asking about PT applicability, profession tax applicability.
Exactly.
Doesn't have any employees
Profession
on
tax
its rolls.
is applicable for the association as an association entity. Then if you have employees, you also have to take an employee registration and start collecting money from the individual employees and remit to the government.
So,
like if you have one state manager, you have to pay.
Correct. If it doesn't have any employees on its roll, then it has to pay the PT as a as an establishment. It has to be as a
Establishment. Correct.
enrollment has
Yes.
to be 2000 100 has to be paid per year.
Yes, yes, correct, correct.
And I have another question relating to the income tax applicability. Obviously, surplus of maintenance collected over the expenditure is exempt due to mutuality concept, right? The portion of the income earned from outside of the members, like rental income or interest on fixed deposits and all, this is applicable to tax. Now, this RWA is considered as an association of person, AOP under Income Tax Act. So, as per AOP taxability, if any member of the AOP has more than comes or falls under income bracket of more than 30%,
correct,
only 10% tax.
No. Society. Okay, under the registration of small differential of 25,000-30,000 rupees of tax. When the tax officer is right in charging you 30% tax.
So it's right to get yourself registered under Karnataka Apartment Owners Act.
Correct. And that's a big topic, so I very carefully avoided touching upon it. But we'll discuss that separately.
Now they have stopped registration also.
This is Navendra from Technic Onwards. Actually, I have a question related to GST. Can I ask?
Yes. I thought GST, there'll be no questions after the enlightening session last.
Actually, we just joined the BAF, so we don't have access to it. But maybe after this, we'll ask. So we are actually 200 plus apartment society, and we are registered in this 1972 Act. So I just wanted to ask, like, how we charge GST if our maintenance exceeds 7,500, and can we exclude charges like water, electricity, the common charges from the main bill to calculate the 7,500 limit? So because we are
without going too technical and legal, you cannot exclude anything. Whatever you collect has to be subjected to calculation of the 7,500 limit.
Okay. And can we charge GST only the amount which is exceeding 7,500, or it has to be charged on the entire amount?
If you exceed 7,500, then the entire amount is subject to tax as per a circular issued by the the GST board, and therefore you have to charge on the entire amount.
And can it
But I can
like
tell you some if you are 7,510 means you have to charge 18% on the entire amount.
for all the apartments or only the apartments for which it is exceeding?
Only the apartments were crossing 7,500.
Okay, so we can have that differential at least in the building that whoever is crossing
Yes,
only
yes,
for them.
yes. And I can tell you one thing: in some apartments, very smartly, what they are doing is they are charging less for apartments who are crossing marginally 7,500. They're finding some reason and then taken up approval, saying that for these apartments they give some English and then bring it to 6,950.
Okay. Okay. And the sinking charges and all that can be separate at least. I hope that is not a part of this.
All are part. All are part.
Mr.
Because our
Sundar, probably we can since it is a new member, maybe we have a recorded session of the previous
Okay.
the GST talk. So maybe we can circulate that along with this as well, so that both these things can go together and people can go to those links and also get the clarification.
Thanks, Vidya. And basically, if you have any other tax consulting contact, please give us, because or anybody else can help us. We will really appreciate it because this is a very pressing issue for us. Yeah.
Sundar, Umesh here.
Yes, Umesh.
Yeah, we have asked some TDS amount because there is a change in PAN name and bank account name. So PAN name has to be changed, to match with. So TDS deducted from our bank deposit, not matching with our PAN name.
That you ask your CA to manage. Yeah, it's a very complicated process. Ask your CA to manage.
Okay. What is the rule for right to be filed every year? Because 90% of the apartments, majority of the apartments, lot of disturbance, I think. Majority of the apartments are not at all filing any IT returns. They're all happy. There is no notice, nothing. So we are losing huge amount. Is there any
will come one day?
So far, no notices from last 10 years I have seen.
Then you bless your stars and be happy about it.
Nirmala Sitaraman, please. Yeah.
What is the punishment, sir, if you fail to file IT returns?
No, you have fail. IT returns or pay taxes. Both are different.
Okay, they are not paying any returns. Whatever the interest that they are getting from bank, their 20% TDS is deducted. They are least bothered about that 20% amount because which is very small, and they are not at all filing any accounts. They are challenging us. See, we are all happy. Why you are struggling? Why you are spending so much for accounts and audit everything? Looks like some funny.
See, that depends on the attitude, sir. Whether you want to abide by tax laws or not. I think I will leave it at that.
Okay, sir. Is audit question?
So, as per basically 1972 Act, is it possible to define like what can be charged per square feet and what can be charged per flat? Like in our society, a lot of people are asking like everything should be per flat, not per square feet. Is there any presentation on this or discussion which has happened?
Karnataka Apartment Ownership Act provides for both. So you choose what you like, but to choose only one, don't have both.
Okay, because in our thing to reduce the put something
square foot is the right way.
Yeah.
The square foot is the right way of doing it, unless the difference in the square foot is marginal. Because there are some apartments where there are 4 types, but all are 3-bedroom, and the differential is not even 100 square foot.
In our society,
you can afford to have an amount per apartment.
Sir, is there any basis for audit
Therefore,
fees, sir?
the square foot difference is more.
Yeah.
Sir, is there any
negotiation
for audit fee, sir? What is the basis for audit fee?
Negotiation 50, sir.
Negotiation.
Minimum 25 to 30,000 rupees. Yes.
Sir, is it legally valid to Sir, is it legally valid to charge transfer charges on the sale of a property by a owner?
No, you cannot charge money on the owner who is selling, but in the incoming owner, everyone collects 20,000 rupees or more, saying that you are becoming member of the association. That's all.
So from the
Water society, all of them are there because it is follow onwards. So we should not even take any example from there.
Can you please respond to the questions on the chat? Even by mail is okay.
Hi Sundar and Srividya, is it possible to share Sundar's WhatsApp number?
Which is the best software according to you in your experiences to maintain these accounts in apartments?
My experience is limited, but I can tell you common floor and apartment data both are equally good. The other newer ones I have not tested. If you ask, go through the Bamboo's material available in the BAF website, at least 8 are listed. You should evaluate all of them. Be fair to them.
Thank you, sir.
Mr.
Sandhya, I think time to close. Thank you.
1 o'clock. I think we should close with this last question.
Sir, can you please respond to the questions on the chat? Even by mail is okay.
Yes.
Sir, there are questions on the chat. We've never got a chance to ask, but then we try to put it there.
Sure. I will share the chat details to Sundar so that he can take it up later. Hello.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I'll do one thing. If Sandhya, if you can mail the chat extract to me.
Yeah, I'll do
I will consolidate all the questions and provide responses.
Sure, I'll do that.
Sir, one good practice which we are adopting, which you are not covered to maximize our income, we have used a sweep-in, sweep-out facility with our savings bank account. So anything beyond a certain amount goes into a short-term deposit. So that way we are maximizing our interest on the bank money.
Okay, excellent practice, sir. If they are allowing you to open an SB account, it's excellent practice.
Yes, we have an SB account and we run a sweep-in, sweep-out about 5 lakh rupees. So that way we have maximized our return on the money which is lying idle.
Yeah. Most of the leading banks these days do not offer to open an SB account for associations. They instead open only a current account. But they do have a sweep-in facility available, with any balance beyond a certain level can be swept into a FD account and you get some current rates 3 or 4. Okay, thank you all for the excellent participation and the active engagement with me.
Sandhya would like to
Thank you so much. Sir, would you like to? Thank you.
Thank you.
Please do share Mr. Sundar's number on the BAF group, WhatsApp group.
Yeah. Fabulous presentation, Sundar. Absolutely fabulous.
Thank you all so much. Actually, your participation has made me enjoy the session much more.
Yeah, I am Professor Lakshman. I have been to you. It's absolutely grassroots level, absolutely top class. And any questions we have, we will get in touch with you, sir. Okay.
Sundar, after Professor speaks, I don't think I have any words to speak because he uses all the best language available. Anyway, I should say personally, thank you so much for enlightening so many RWAs how to maintain their accounts and some clarification. Thank you. Thanks a lot for the time. And we will continue to bother you for any clarification even later. Thank you, Sundar.
Thank you
so much.
Yes.
Sandhya?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sundar. Thank you for
Sundar.
taking the time and explaining in such detail.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Sundar.
Thank you.
Just one more, just for information, if anybody wants specific thematic issues to be covered, please get in touch with me so that we can organize another session to clarify your doubts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sandhya.
Okay, thank you.
Sundar, be prepared. We
Thank
will
you,
be
Sundar.
calling you for White cluster exclusively sometime.
Sure. Most welcome, sir.
So that around 100 apartments you will be able to answer, and I will identify what are the common questions. Everything I'll identify and send it to you so that your presentation time will be useful to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Definitely.
Professor has already booked you. Professor has already booked you for Whitebait cluster. Good, Professor. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow at 11:30 for another Baat Ki Baat session on Carnatic music.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.